This is an HSC podcast hosted by students and for the students, where we talk about all layers of your well-being.
The views and expressions said in this podcast episode belong solely to the guests of this episode. They do not represent one structure or population as a whole. If you are concerned for yourself, a friend, or a fellow HSC student, please reach out to the care team at 817-735-2570, and they can help you navigate your crisis.
Welcome to the brand new student-led podcast from the Be Well team. I'm your host, Dhruvi Pradhan, a second-year student at the School of Public Health, and this is my co-host, Sophia Brockman.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm with the Office of Care and Civility. I serve as our student services specialist, so I do a lot of our compliance programming, social media management, and now I get to co-host with Dhruvi.
Today we will talk about knowing yourself, one of HSC's well-being domains, the foundation of Be Well initiative. Knowing yourself allows you to best align your practice with your values and strengths. This allows us to do quality work, stay present, and, be well, even when work is challenging. We have our first guest today, Megan Bullard, a student in Lifestyle Health Sciences and Coaching. This program is a part of the Personalized Health and Wellbeing Department at HSC School of Health Professions. Her hobbies include working out, painting, crafting, baking, and swing dancing. She is from Willow Park, Texas. I'm actually really curious, what is swing dancing?
So swing dancing is like in the 1950s movies, they do use a lot of swing dancing in that with the big skirts. But then here in Texas, they kind of have a more Western style of swing dancing that involves a lot more spins and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, so, what got you into swing dancing?
I took dance lessons in high school for swing dancing.
Okay, that's actually really interesting. And painting, so what kind of painting do you like? Do you have any specific?
Yeah, I like watercolor. It's forgiving.
I see. A lot of people have told me that, but I beg to differ. It's too hard. I've tried. But okay, so before we dive deeper into the topics we're going to talk about today, let's start with a few icebreaker questions. So the first thing I want to know is your word of the day.
Probably full, but like a good type of fullness.
I see.
Because I have things that I love happening today, and then also new things like this, and so it's kind of fun.
That is good to know. How about your intention for the day?
To get all the stuff on my school list done. That is my intention.
I, for one, would second that. Yes, that should be. That's probably all the students' intention for the day, to just get through the assignments today.
Yeah.
And lastly, your self-care item of the day.
My water bottle. It's like my self-care item of the week.
That's a good one.
That's actually a good one. Totally unrelated, though. What did you think about this Stan Leaf boom that happened a couple of weeks ago? Everyone had to have a Stanley.
Oh, the ones that have
the straws on it?
Yeah. I have no idea. I got my water bottle for free at an internship, so I don't even follow water bottles.
But our goal should be hydrate, right? It's good to hydrate. And I'm glad to know your words and your intentions for the day, and I hope you accomplish them. Yeah. And all right, so moving on to the first question. Reflecting on your college experience, what strengths have you discovered, and how have the challenges contributed to your personal growth?
The one that stands out the most would be advocating for myself. And so this is in a few ways. One, I have dyslexia, and so I work with the accommodations people at every school I've gone to. They're really nice here, by the way. They're wonderful. But sometimes professors will misunderstand something, and I'll have to, clarify things with them or have forms resent and things, and that just requires a little extra level of communication. And then Also, in like health related things, I think as anyone in the health and wellness space, it's so impressed upon us to help those around us become their advocates that sometimes we forget about ourselves and how we can't advocate for other people if we're not advocating for our own needs to be met. So I think that would probably be the biggest one.
So it's just like it takes a while to actually love yourself, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do feel that I love advocating for other people. Like, hey, mental health matters for everybody, but it matters to you too.
Yeah.
Right? So I think this is something that I've recently just come across, like all of social media. It's like where they tell you that, loving yourself comes first. And then when you have love to spare, give it to other people, right? So how would you say that you talked about your personal growth? Would you say you faced any challenges apart from communication, like any other challenges that you faced?
In undergrad, I encountered definitely some professors who were, even though I had accommodations or I had like the accommodations department had reached out to them and given them all the information, they were just like, well, you don't actually need it. And so I had to push a little harder with them and call more. I mean, it sounds so silly that it's like I have to call more people and email more people. But like when you're emailing through like 3 different departments to get something done, it's a big deal. And so that would be part of it.
And like you said, people here are great.
Yeah,
right?
they are.
I hope you haven't faced those challenges, at least on campus.
No.
All right, so moving on to the other question. How do you navigate the balancing act of academics and personal life?
My planner. I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but knowing, because school and work are obviously my main priorities, and so knowing when classes are and labs and lectures, and then knowing when I have to work, I can fit everything else in around it because I have a basic framework.
I think I should ask you, what is your mantra for success? Because I have tried like to, maintain a planner, but it's like 1 week, 2 weeks, and then I'm out. I mean, I either forget to add things to it. I'm like, do I need to? I remember I need to do this.
Yeah.
So like, how do you stay motivated and disciplined to actually do that every day?
Gosh. Like on Sundays, I'll go through and look at what I have for the week, and then I'll kind of write things down. And then if I don't do, because this is something that a lot of people I know who have trouble with planners, they get really frustrated. Like they were going to do laundry and they didn't that day. I write an arrow and just draw it to the next day. Like, I don't know. You have to be flexible too within your framework.
So give yourself that space.
Yeah.
Right? And time. It's okay to feel the frustration.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure all of us do at some point. Like, I was supposed to do that today. Supposed to. But it hasn't happened. So maybe take a break. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just draw an arrow. Move it to the next day. But make sure that arrow doesn't keep continuing every day, right?
Yeah. Well, you can't do everything. And so sometimes it's kind of cool. Like, I'll write down so many tasks and I'll think I can do them all, but I can't. And then it's like, okay, this is what I should do tomorrow. And I know, like, I'm getting to know myself better and how much I can actually do in a day, and what's important to me to get accomplished each day. And so that's kind of cool.
So if someone wanted to start their own planner today, what would you tell them? Like, what is the first thing they should do?
Well, buy a planner. Well,
step A, buy a planner.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am particular to the paper planners, but if you're a, electronic paper person or planner person, more power to you, I guess. I have to see it in front of me, like on my desk, to do it. And then to write down like your syllabus and work schedule, and then everything else kind of goes from there.
So have you ever used your planner? Just not for your studies and your work, but just as, a place to write what you're thinking or just what you're feeling that day?
Yeah. So sometimes if it's like a day and I don't have school, I'll write down like, fun things that I did that day. Or sometimes it's really fun to like every day write just one word of something you're grateful for. I've done that for like a month at a time, and that's really cool too.
So it's almost like it helps you grow as well as an individual because you get to know yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
I kind of use it as journal and productivity together.
Can I do a follow-up question?
Go ahead.
So you really touched upon, so when we look at burnout, one of the things that researchers really emphasize is focusing on things that are within your control. Clearly, you have learned at least the foundational skills for that. How are you using, whether or not it's your planner or just keeping it in the back of your mind, how do you prioritize that self-care and those moments of mindfulness throughout the week?
I write them down. I mean, I'm a broken record here. I write everything down. But I literally will write, do your nails, you know, or if, say, Fridays are usually free for me, like I don't have school or work. And I did that intentionally so that I can have a day of like, if I need to go grocery shopping, I can. And it's like a flex day and it's just whatever. And especially during busy times, like in grad school, we've got a lot of different things pulling at you. I think that that's important to be like, here's a block of 8 hours where I have nothing planned and I get to do whatever I want. This is great.
I feel like I think that block that you leave to just do whatever you want should probably motivate a lot of people to be like, hey, if I want to reach to that point,
Yeah.
maybe discipline is the key. Okay, so moving on. What advice would you give to your fellow students about the importance of knowing oneself as it pertains to their mental health and well-being? So, touching a little bit upon what she said, like what advice would you give other students?
To really think about what you personally value, whether that be like honesty, friends, family, faith, you know, anything in any realm, I guess, but what you personally value, because that will, one, show you where your needs maybe aren't being met, but it will also show you areas that you can put more time into and how you want to spend your time so you're not getting burnt out.
Okay, so would you say that your journey, as you described, like being dyslexic and then having to provide additional information to everybody so they accommodate you, do you think that journey has shaped what you've chosen to do your master's in?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, sort of.
Okay, because I was like, lifestyle health, that's something that probably could, like,
Yeah.
It is actually a question, has it, shaped what you advocate for right now?
Yeah, I think to some extent, for sure. How I got to this degree is kind of a wild ride. And so there were a bunch of different factors that went into it, but that definitely shifted my perspective of healthcare and health being holistic, if that makes sense.
Yes, being a public health student, I do know what you're talking about because every time we talk about like whole health, so sometimes people think that those two words actually define what whole health means. I was like, that's not it. No. Trust me, the definition of whole health is completely different from what you think is whole health, right? And so what kind of personal experiences in your journey have inspired your dedication to discussing about student mental health?
Well, my senior year of college, I was in nursing school, undergrad. That's what I started at. And senior year, I had to get the COVID vaccine, and I got it. And within 30 minutes, had an adverse neurologic reaction, and I couldn't walk without aid for 9 months. And it was like I had neuropathy, I had nystagmus, I don't know. There were all kinds of things going on. And they made me withdraw from nursing school. And eventually, I couldn't return because of exemptions and things like that. And my entire identity for my whole growing up was, I want to be a nurse. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the best nurse I can. And so my whole identity was tied up in my education and that BSN and that RN. And so that was really devastating. And I had to really think about what my identity was outside of that and how, because I was very tunnel vision of this is how I can help other people. And it made me have a broader view of the world and how I can help others and serve others in different aspects, which is actually how I found out about this program, because a lady who'd done this program was working for one of the doctors I went to, and she was like, you'd like this. And so something really good came out of that. But so that's something that's important to me when discussing mental health and well-being with other students, is because, especially in healthcare, our entire identity can be so wrapped up in, I'm going to be this person who helps these people and does these things. And if it doesn't work out, whether you're in the hospital and something takes a really bad turn with a patient, or, you fail a test, it can be absolutely devastating. Or, something happens and you can't practice anymore. And so I think, again, going back to the values, like knowing what you value and knowing what's important to you, and knowing that your identity isn't just in your education, is so important. Because that's something I had to learn the hard way.
I understand. It's like a lot of students right now that I have talked to, not only on this at this campus, but also like other students, even my cousins. The way we've been brought up is education matters the most.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from like where I come from, I'm from India, and my parents, their generation, the moment we graduated, or even we were like, okay, under graduation, what do we do? It's like it's a crucial moment where you decide what you need to do with your life.
Yeah.
And that generation was just so tunnel-minded. They were like, it's either you're a doctor or an engineer. Any other course, you're a failure in life. And I'm like, how does that? I don't understand. How is that me being a failure in life?
Yeah.
When I'm just getting to choose something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And sometimes students face that problem about, I can only help people if I'm a doctor, a nurse, or a healthcare worker, or any other way. And when that is taken away from you, you're like, I don't know what to do with my life anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just that was my life. So what do I do now that is taken away from me?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people learn it the hard way. That it's okay. And you just need to follow what you believe in.
Yeah.
Probably that's what matters a lot to move and grow in life, right? A lot of your situations I relate to them a lot. This is probably because I have also been through a little bit of that, but I understand that mental health is something that not everyone talks about, especially when you don't know who to talk to.
Well, sometimes we talk about it in like the extremes. It's like, you're perfectly happy or you have bipolar. You're not, I just need to go talk to a friend. Like, there's not the middle ground of having friends and talking to them or things like that. It's, psychiatric care or nothing.
I understand. So follow-up question. When you say something random that you do on those 8 hours that you block for yourself, are there any activities that you really enjoy, like going and meeting friends or just going for a walk or listening to music? Like what kind of activities would you just do if you had the time to do it?
Yeah, I like going for walks for sure. Sometimes it's like just watching a couple episodes of The Crown or something. Like totally vegging out. I love baking and cooking. Like, I love that. And when I can spend like an hour baking something, it fills me with so much joy, especially when everyone I love gets to eat it.
Okay. So Well, to know more about your approach to seeking help when you face any mental challenges or emotional challenges, like how do you reach out to people?
I just ask. Like texting friends and asking if they want to get coffee, or going on a walk with my mom and talking to her. Going to dinner with my boyfriend, like things like that, like being like, hey, let's go do something like out of the ordinary, not out of the ordinary, but like intentional, where you can have conversations and be like, I don't really know what's like this situation. Can like, let me tell you about it. And can you tell me like what you think? 'Cause sometimes just having someone to ask questions back to you helps you really get through like the monkeys in your mind.
I do actually, yes, I second that. But also, sometimes it's difficult to take that first step of ask. So I'm pretty sure it would have been difficult for you at some point too. So how did you get over that?
So during all my crazy health stuff, it really narrowed down my friend group, because obviously I couldn't go out and do some things. I'm walking and driving and doing all the things now, by the way. But I couldn't go out and do all the things. And, I really, my friends who wanted to spend time with me, if I asked them to do something or they wanted to do something, they had to come to me and they had to do things. And it made me realize if you ask someone to, like, come have coffee with you or do something, and they really, really care about you and they really value your friendship, they'll do it. And if they don't, it doesn't really matter that they're not in your life. Like, at that point, it's like, okay, that just tells me that you can't be that person, and that's okay.
Also, when you, like I said, you ask and then you talk about that topic, right? You're like, how do you not feel like, what I'm asking, is it stupid? Or am I just being too paranoid? Or is it like, how do you get over that initial fear too? Like when you ask a question, even if it's a close friend of 20 years, I still have that fear sometimes to ask like my best friend who's known me since I was born. I was like, is this a stupid question? Is it even a valid question? I don't even know if what I'm feeling is valid according to the situation. So sometimes you kind of bring yourself down too. I, for one, feel that sometimes. So like, do you feel that? And if you do, how do you overcome that?
Well, first of all, if they're a good friend, I think they'll go, my friends are definitely the people who go, Megan, that's kind of silly. Like, you're better, like, you're able to do this. You're, strong and capable. And, they mean that out of love. And so I know that. But I think it also depends on, like if you've had multiple conversations with people, like the initial, like saying, this was really bothering me, can feel really, really scary. But then after that, it's like, oh, now we can talk about stuff. And it's like taking your friendship to a whole new level, to where they even, in my experience, are more willing to like ask you questions. And they're like, oh my gosh, you said this first, so now I can ask you something. And that's kind of cool.
I understand. Also, I know that a journey through the journey of knowing yourself, sometimes you have to set boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? Boundaries with family.
Yep.
Boundaries with your loved ones, your friends. And sometimes it's just hard to tell them that, hey, I would appreciate it if you don't cross this boundary. But sometimes it also makes you feel guilty. Like initially when you set those boundaries, you're like, is it okay for me to just be like, say no and be okay with that? Because I have a few friends who do come up to me and like, I feel bad for saying no to that person. So I'm like, you shouldn't be, because if you feel uncomfortable, you feel uncomfortable, and it's okay to say no. But that, I feel, it takes a long time to reach that situation or even that comfort level with yourself. So how do you set like boundaries? Like, are you stern? Are you polite? Sometimes people are just like, hey, that's it. I'm sorry, but you have to follow that.
I'm a very polite person, for sure. But over the last few years, I think the more things that we have on our plate to do, the easier it is to set boundaries. Because, like, when you have free time, you're like, I'll do whatever. Like, it's kind of nebulous. When you have certain things to do, it's like, I can't do that. I'm sorry. Or also, I've had some friends before who every time I hung out with them, I was just, like, physically and emotionally drained. And I was like, I can't do this at the moment. And so I took a little break, and now we're fine. But sometimes it's like the feeling of like, oh my gosh, like I just don't feel good after I hang out with this person. And sometimes it's you're valuing your time that helps you set those boundaries, if that makes sense.
And, sometimes when you feel like you need to step away, maybe from person, maybe from your studies, maybe from work or whatever project you're working on, do you have any, when do you know that you need to step away? That this is the time that I need to be like, hey, I need some alone time, or I need to do something else. I need to step away from this project, this person, this subject at the moment. So how do you know that you need to step away?
That's a really good question.
You talked about how, like, your body will give you cues with, like, your friends and stuff.
Yeah.
Does your body give you cues when you start to feel overwhelmed?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the most basic one is when I'm staring at my laptop for too long doing work or school, and I start, like, my eyes start feeling like the Sahara Desert, and it's like, I need to, like, go lay down for a minute. But sometimes it's like almost, like, not you're feeling anxious exactly, but it's like you can feel like you're starting to get kind of wound up. And it's like, okay, I need to go do something else or change tasks even, because sometimes it's just changing, like, from one class to a different class's homework because you're just not getting anywhere. And it's like, I will, start crying if I keep going on this route for another 3 hours. This is not productive. And so, yeah, that would probably be it.
So we all have our one resource that we kind of huddle around. Is there one thing at HSC that you've just loved? Whether that's like a spot on campus, maybe it's a faculty or staff member, like making friends.
So I've started going to bar class every Tuesday night with Maggie.
We love Maggie.
Oh my gosh.
We love Maggie.
I love her class so much. I am still sore from Tuesday. So that's been really fun.
We love Maggie in the Office of Care and Civility.
And it's a good way to help with your mental health, to work out. It all ties together.
It does. Like, sometimes physical activity and even, like, a little form of just moving around.
Yeah.
Like, just helps you be like, I think I needed that.
Oh, yeah.
And with all the studies, with assignments piling up, and you're in one place for 3 hours, you're like, no. Get up, walk around, even if it's just to lift your bottle. But walk around. You need that, some rush, at least some form of exercise to get over that tiredness.
Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap for the first episode. Thank you, Megan, for joining us and letting us know about your journey to knowing yourself. For those of you listening at home, join us next week for the next episode. Thank you.
That's a wrap. Thank you, guests, for joining us in this impactful conversation. For our listeners at home, we appreciate you tuning in and hope you join us for the next episode. If you find the contents of this episode triggered or elicited a response, please reach out to Care Team at 817-735-2570.